It's crazy to think that WWE's United States title has such a long list of holders, but let's go.
So we start off with Latino Heat versus The Big Show.
Eddie Guerrero.
Eddie Guerrero versus John Cena.
Eddie Guerrero.
Eddie Guerrero versus Booker T.
That's a challenging one, but it's WWE, so I'm going to go Eddie Guerrero.
Eddie Guerrero versus Carlito Caribbean Coup.
Okay, Eddie Guerrero stays on top.
Eddie Guerrero versus Orlando Jordan.
Eddie.
Eddie versus Chris Benoit.
Eddie Guerrero.
Eddie versus John Bradshaw Layfield.
Eddie Guerrero.
Eddie Guerrero versus Bobby Lashley.
Bobby, great wrestler, but Eddie wins.
Eddie Guerrero versus Finley.
Eddie.
Eddie versus Mr. Kennedy.
Eddie.
Eddie versus MVP.
Montel Vontavious Porter wins and goes on because MVP was a standout United States champion.
I do agree. Do gotta agree. MVP versus Matt Hardy.
MVP. Yes, great feud.
MVP versus his fellow Hurt Syndicate member, Shelton Benjamin.
MVP.
MVP versus Kofi Kingston.
I only say this out of personality. MVP.
Fair enough, but love Kofi.
Oh, yeah. No knock on Kofi.
MVP versus The Miz, another great U.S. champion.
Yes, MVP.
MVP versus Bret Hart, I forgot this happen.
MVP.
MVP versus R-Truth.
MVP.
MVP versus Daniel Bryan.
Yes, MVP.
MVP versus Sheamus.
MVP.
MVP versus Dolph Ziggler.
Dolph Ziggler.
Ziggler versus Zack Ryder.
Ziggler.
Ziggler versus Swagger.
Nick Nemeth.
Nick Nemeth. No, sorry. Dolph Ziggler versus Santino.
you know my
yeah, I was about to say I know
Dolph
the
Ziggler,
this one. This is fun. Dolph Ziggler versus Antonio Cesaro. God, his name was Antonio.
Dolph Ziggler, yes.
Dolph Ziggler versus my boy Dean Ambrose.
Dolph Ziggler. This is Ohio versus Ohio.
Ohio violence. Yes. We love to see it.
Dolph Ziggler wins.
Dolph Ziggler versus Rusev.
Rusev crushes. Rusev moves on.
Rusev Machka.
Yes.
Rusev versus Seth Rollins.
Rusev.
Rusev versus Alberto Del Rio.
Rusev.
Rusev versus Kalisto.
Rusev.
Rusev versus Roman Reigns.
Pause. Rusev wins. And the reason this video is going out is because I founded Gambo Comics. You can get to it by following the link in the description of this or any other video, because at Gambo Comics you can get shirts, hats, posters, but most importantly, either the 18-page comic book I wrote, BC Brute, or the 68-page graphic novel I wrote, Everlasting Survivors. Thank you for watching. Thank you for playing.